presentation and ask questions and be part of this conversation as we dig into this and see if this is something for our district. My name is Dr. Jeff Mangus. I'm the superintendent of schools here at Forsyth, if I haven't had a chance to meet you. I've been here, I guess, 12 years. And to start off tonight, I'm going to have some introductions. We're going to introduce our Board of Education as well as our administrative team. That's two groups within our district here that have been involved with this conversation for a long period of time before we come to you as community members and as parents. So, and then what we'll do after that is I'll kind of give you a layout of the meeting. As far as administrative group, we have Dr. Persinger. He's our middle school assistant principal. Dr. Philip Guy is our high school assistant principal. Mr. Chris Padgett, who is our high school principal. Liz Turner, who is our elementary assistant principal. Dr. Sandra Goss, who's our middle school principal. And Dr. Kendra Stewart, our elementary principal. These folks are going to be here throughout the meeting, and they are going to be here specifically at the end when we go into question and answer time, which we'll stay here as long as you all want, taking your questions and answering those best we can. But if you don't feel comfortable coming to the microphone and you have a question, just a personal question you'd like to ask, any of these folks will be glad to answer those questions for you at the end of the meeting. Our Board of Education is also with us tonight, and if those folks would come down to the front real quick, I would appreciate it. Many of you know these folks and these faces. They work tirelessly all through the year to help make decisions and provide leadership for the district and things that we do. We have Brett Brightwell, Ryan Sanders, Ben Roberts, Tony Mullen, and Lacey Sanders. Again, these folks will be here at the end of the meeting if you would like to come and talk with them specifically about individual questions. That if you don't get an opportunity to ask that with the group. But again, we'll stay the entire time. Thank you all very much. I know we've got, we have a pretty decent turnout. When you have something like this, you never know. We had a couple of meetings for our bond issue last year when we ran that, and we had about 2 people, so we have a much better turnout for this. Again, thank you. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through a presentation that I've been working on looking at this over the last year or so, and we've been discussing this at the Board of Education meetings for the past several months. Administrative team has been working on this over the past year as well, and we're going to talk about the why, what a 4-day school week is, why we're researching this, the potential outcomes that we see, the negatives that we have to consider, the positives that we have to consider, and then at the end of that, we're going to open it up to you all for questions. So you shouldn't have to leave here with a question in your mind that you didn't have an opportunity to ask unless you choose to do so. Okay, so your input, you're here to receive our information, to see our presentation, and then on the flip side, we want to hear from you. Because we have over 1,100 students within our district, and we're going to follow this meeting up with a parent survey later this week, but it's also really good to hear from you and get questions that you may have. Most important question, why are we researching this? Main goal of the district is to attract, hire, and retain high-quality teachers and staff. If we want to have successful learning going on within our classrooms, we want a successful teacher in the front of the room. It doesn't matter if we have laptops, it doesn't matter all the technology and tools that we have, the key is a quality teacher. We want to enhance the quality of instruction and student engagement, and we feel like the calendar options that we're going to present to you tonight have the opportunity to do so, and we'll share why we feel that. We want to create a more consistent calendar with built-in makeup days that stakeholders can plan for. If any of you have had a student already graduate from Forsyth schools, I know your family starts asking you after Christmas, hey, when's graduation going to be? Okay? We don't set graduation until May 1st, and the reason that we don't do that is we cannot predict when the last day of school is going to be until that's about as late as we can make that choice, because we have to have built-in makeup days within our calendar. We could have a late snow in February or late January or February, and our calendar, the way it's built now, our days could extend out 5 to 7 days. With an amended 4-day calendar, we have the opportunity to build all our snow days in on Mondays, So when school starts, we could tell you the date, the last day of school is going to be, when graduation is going to be, and that should not change because we have plenty of time on those Mondays to build in those snow days. And then you have the time to plan for that as well. Over the time of the calendar, it would create a little bit of cost savings. You'll see about two slides that talk about the financial impact of switching to a 4-day calendar week, but I want to be very clear, this is not a financial decision. You're looking at probably a savings of about 1% over a year, about $120,000 on a $12 million budget. So this is not a financial decision, but those financial savings that it does provide, that tiny amount, would go back into the classroom. Talk to you about the Board of Education, your admin team, presentation, and your questions coming up. Okay, let's talk about this. Last year, we have about 183 employees within our district. To begin the 1920 school year, we had to hire 27 new employees. That's significant. Now, not all of those were certified teachers, but many were. I know that every company, every business hires, they have turnover, but when we invest in our teachers and our staff, the last thing that we want to do is see them leave, because then we have to start all over. And when you start all over with a new employee, your instruction lags a little bit because you've got to get those folks onboarded and caught up to speed. When we hire employees, we have the task of competing with area districts. Taneyville, Kirbyville, Forsyth, Hollister, Branson, Reed Springs. When someone applies in this region, they make decisions on where they're going to apply to teach. We are competitive with Taneyville pay, we are competitive with Kirbyville pay, we are competitive with Hollister pay. We cannot compete with pay with the Branson School District. Their funding base is much higher based on commercial and personal assessed valuations. Their funding is driven much higher. So when we have to compete with those folks that are that close, we have to look outside the box of financial matters and try to find another way to draw quality teachers to apply for the jobs in our district. So we're looking at ways to attract, hire, and retain high-quality employees. And I want to make sure you understand this is not just certified teachers. This is cooks, bus drivers, paras, secretaries. These are all of the important elements within our district that all have the role of equipping students for the next stage in life. If we can't hire quality people, our ability to make that happen is hindered. Here's a little bit of the data we've seen. Elementary education positions. In 17-18, we had 2 certified openings, and we had 58 applicants. That's a pretty nice pool to hire from. And that was the average for many years in the past. In 18-19, we had 1 opening, we were down to 20. In 19-20, we had 1 opening, we're down to 16. So you can see over time, the number of folks applying for jobs in our district has decreased. This also mirrors what's taking place all across the state. There are fewer people going into education, fewer people becoming teachers, fewer people going to work in school districts. It's a tough job, and we still have to work to put the best person we can in front of the classroom. But this, if you see this trend, it's a little disheartening and frightening. Content area applicants. When I say content area, I'm talking about if you think about high school or middle school, when those teachers specialize in math, ELA, which is English Language Arts, reading and writing, or science or social studies. In 17-18, we had a math opening. I believe that was in the high school at that time. We had 25 applicants. In 18-19, we had 1 math opening and we had 1 applicant. I don't want to say to Chris and Tammy Paget, if their son is in Algebra 1 in high school, that we hired the only applicant. I want to say that we hired the best applicant. And if we have a pool that small, that becomes very difficult to do. In 19-20, we had ELA, which is again, reading and writing, communication arts. We had 4 applicants. When you look at these numbers, when you get this amount of applications, you're going to have to kick some of those to the side because some of those are not fully certified for the positions they're applying for. So for us to be able to put the best teacher in front of your kids, those numbers need to be much higher. We want a lot of people applying for jobs. When someone leaves our district, and this is not about replacing the people that are here now, This is when someone chooses to leave our district, we want people stacked outside the door wanting to become a Forsyth Panther. I want to pull from 35 or 40 Algebra 1 teachers and find the very best, not pull from 2 and find the very best. What is the 4-day-week school calendar? And I know this is very elementary, very basic, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. DESE has a requirement that students must receive 1,044 hours of instruction. Years ago, that calendar said you had to attend 174 days. That is no longer the case. So realistically, a district can say, we're going to go 100 days, and we're going to go long enough to make that 1,044 hours. And that's all legal and correct. But it's not always what's best. So what we want to do is have an understanding of that change between the length of days in a year, the old 174 days, and that was when I was in school, many of us were in school, is gone. So now it's an hour requirement. So this, a 4-day school week allows you to go 4 days instead of 5, and still meet the required hours that are needed by DESE, and we will actually go more than those required hours, which we always have. Currently, our instructional calendar is 169 days, and that's the days that the students are on campus. And they attend 1,067.77 hours. Basically 8:15 to 3 o'clock. Proposed calendar, and I hope that you have one of those in your hand, and I want you to understand that's proposed. We've worked on that for many months. That calendar is built on 150 instructional days and provides 1,050 instructional hours. So, when you look at that compared to the old calendar, essentially you're looking at about 2.5 days of instruction difference in a year. In Missouri, the most widely used day out of school on a 4-day school week is Monday. The reason is many of your holidays are already on Mondays. Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, Labor Day, Memorial Day, those things are already in place. So we would select Monday as the days the students were not in session, so we would capture those days that were already out. The other thing that we have considered is when you go to schedule appointments for your family, and we'll talk more about this later, more and more of your medical offices are starting to close at noon on Friday or not be open. More businesses and more medical places where families need to make appointments are open on Mondays, so we think that would be the best day out so we could accommodate opportunities for your family to take care of those personal business items when school's not in session. We talked about 150 student days. If we're going less days, we're going to go longer amount of time. So we would attend 150 days and we would add 40 minutes of time per day. And I think the key element here is that's 40 minutes of instructional time. Okay? We are not building in a calendar where we're just rolling the clock back and we're keeping the same format as we had and we're just corralling kids for that time. Instruction would start earlier in the day and would run longer in the day. We are looking at right now, and this goes back to why we say this calendar is proposed, because this is part of the input that we'll want from you all, and this is something you'll be able to respond to on the survey. But we've looked at a calendar now of 8 a.m. to 3:25. So really about 15 minutes in the morning time, 25 minutes in the afternoon. And we wanted to give a balance there because if you tack all that on early in the morning, we have a few kiddos that live way down in Cedar Creek that get on the bus pretty early. We don't want them getting on too early in the morning. And then we have a lot of kids that are in after-school activities, athletics, school play, things of that nature. We don't want to push too far back because then they usually have about 2 hours after school of activity, whether it be practice or something. We don't want those kids getting home too late, so we try to work and find that nice balance there, so we tack on to both sides. And the other part of that is, I know many of you, the Face of DESE, have kids involved in some of those activities where they have to leave school. If we tack a bunch of time just on the back end of the day, those kids that would have to leave school early to get to those long travel games, they'd miss more instruction. This kind of keeps that in check. Student days would primarily be Tuesday through Friday. If you're looking on that calendar, you will see, and we'll reference this again later, there are some Mondays that we actually are in session. And here's the reason. Thanksgiving break, we have over the past, I think at least the past 12 years, given Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for that Thanksgiving break, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback for our families to have that travel day on Wednesday, and we feel that we want to continue to accommodate that. Christmas break is an important time for kids and families. We've protected that same amount of time. Christmas break, if you're ever in any school district, it's always going to range from about 13 to 16 days, just the way the calendar falls. So we're going to stay right in that same format as we always have. And then we've had a lot of questions on spring break. I think a lot of families plan vacations and travel for their families on spring break, and this calendar actually will continue to have a week-long spring break built in it, as you'll see it. There are 7 Mondays that we'd be in attendance. Some of those are built in so that we could try to balance somewhat first semester and second semester. Whether you're going 150 days, 169, 174, we try to keep first semester and second semester fairly consistent. We have always had a variance. Sometimes it's 2 days different, sometimes it's 10 days different. This scenario would be 70 in the first semester and 80 in the second semester. That's a scenario that we've had in the past. We try to work off a couple of priorities. One, we never want to roll first semester over to after Christmas break. We don't want our students, especially in the high school, that take finals to stop coming to class for 13 to 16 days and then come back in January and take a final. So we want to wrap that first semester up before Christmas. The other thing is we try to always have school ended before Memorial Day. A lot of families begin travel, summer camps, sports camps, activities, everything kicks off right after Memorial Day. We try to always make sure that we have our school out of session, if at all possible, by Memorial Day, and this proposed calendar has that. Snow days, this is one that would be really nice as far as planning for folks in the district. I believe we have 7 snow days built into that calendar. We have to build in 36 hours of makeup time. We used to have to build in 6 days when the DESE was counting everything based off days. Now you have to build in 36 hours of makeup days. So if we have a snow day, you can look on that calendar and see, okay, we had a snow day on this date. If we have the snow day before that first makeup day, here's the date that we will be in session. You won't have to wait and say, oh, I don't know when they're going to tack that on. Is it going to go on the end? Where's it going to fall? For your scheduling purposes, it's already on the calendar. You know exactly when that will be. And we have plenty of those built in. We actually have one extra and still get us out by Memorial Day. So that helps protect that projection on when is graduation and when is the last day of school. Teacher professional learning on 9 Mondays. Very important for you to understand is the transition to a 4-day school week does not just mean that all your employees at the district are staying home every Monday. We would provide 9 Mondays of professional learning for our teachers. Education is, it's continuing, it's ongoing. Our teachers that have been here 27 years, our teachers that have been here 4 months at this point, they continue to have professional development every year so they can work to better the education opportunities for your students. So 9 of those Mondays, all your certified staff will be here on campus going through professional development. How's this going to help us hire and retain faculty and staff? Excuse me. Again, we talked about this earlier in the presentation. Our board has been fantastic over the past couple of decades of making sure that we can reward our folks the best that we can. But when we have a teacher that comes to this table and they say, guys, I can go to work at Branson or I can come here. If there's a $4,000 difference in that salary, that's tough for us to compete with. But if we can say, you know what, we can provide an opportunity here where you're going to have additional time for classroom preparation, additional time for professional development, and we're going to create some time within your calendar when you can take care of your personal business so you don't have to miss any of your classroom time with kids, then that's a way to think outside of the box, outside of dollars, to bring those folks in and want to be a parent. We have, I'll back up here. when I have a vendor or somebody come in that's never been to our district before, and maybe you've had folks that have come to visit, you say this too, when they come into my office, the first time they sit down, they say, man, that drive on 160 from 65, well, that's a pretty drive. What that means is, man, that thing is really curvy. And we all know that. And that's part of the beauty of our region. But when we have a teacher, and we have some, but if we have a teacher applicant that lives in Ozark, for example, and we match fairly close salary with Hollister, is it easier to make that 11 miles on down to Hollister on the 4-lane, or is it easier to come on the curvy road over here? That road is a little bit of a block for us when we hire folks. So if we can then have that a little bit of amended calendar as another draw to those people, maybe that's another thing that we can overcome. Okay? We're just trying to think outside the box and be as competitive and as attractive as we can to applicants. Again, this it provides us some leverage. Okay? It provides us a little bit of a bargaining chip, okay, that we can use to get those folks coming in. And it's all about what we talked about earlier. It's about, we want 35, 40 people stacked up outside the door wanting to come and work and live and be a part of our community. We don't want to take from the pool of 1 or 2 and take who we have to. We don't want that. I don't want that for your kids. I don't want it for my kids. I got a 6th grader and a junior, and I want the very best geometry teacher. I want the very best 6th grade teacher we can possibly have. And we have those, but we want to make sure if those leave, they're stacked up out the door, ready to come in. Biggest question of the night, what is the impact on kids? What does this do to kids' education? Research indicates, and when I say research, we're actually lucky enough we have one of the lead researchers from the state on 4-day weeks in the back of the room here, Mr. Turner, who works with Missouri State University. Research indicates that, well, I'll break it down like this. You can read research that says this will have a negative impact on academic achievement. You can read research that says this will have a positive impact on academic achievement. You can find the same amount of research that says it's not going to have an impact one way or the other. And if you've done any research, you can go out there and find it. And I've read article and after article. But when we talk to all the districts in the state that we've talked to, everyone's seeing a slight increase in achievement. Okay? Now, that doesn't always mean that that's on the MAP test. Okay? Student achievement is measured in many ways. So if you were to go out and look at everyone that's gone to a 4-day school week and said, okay, let's compare all the MAP scores, over the past few years, that would be very difficult because our kids have taken, we're just now in the field where we're taking the same test for 2 or 3 years in a row. And we had a cycle where every time we took a test, it was a different test. It was very hard to compare. Okay? But when we're talking student achievement, we're talking classroom grade averages, we're talking assessments that the districts build and use, we're talking tests that the teachers build and use to compare, so it's not just state level. We talked to, and I'll show you a list and I'll show you a map across the state of Missouri, the 61 districts that have implemented this, and those that we talked to, they reference the same thing. They're seeing a slight uptick in their student achievement, and we'll talk about why as we go through this. Student attendance is a big thing. I have an example from Crane. In their first quarter, they jumped, looks like just over 4% in attendance. A 4% increase with high school students, guys, is a big increase because high school students drive. A lot of them are responsible for themselves. Our kindergarten kids, outside of getting sick, they run very high attendance. And it kind of goes the other way sometimes in high school, doesn't it, at Mentee? So a 4% increase on the first run of that is a significant finding. And again, that's just an example. But by creating that day within those weeks when doctor appointments, dentist appointments, orthodontist, if any of you guys have kids with braces, what is that, every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks they're there? They're there all the time. Again, you have an opportunity on that Monday to build that appointment in. Attendance goes up. Higher student attendance is directly correlated with higher student achievement. It doesn't matter if you're a kindergartner or a senior. The more you're here, the better you do. Student engagement has gone up. Student morale, excitement for the day. When they're on campus, they know, I'm here for these days, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to work hard. If a kid is happy, it doesn't matter if they're at home or if they're at school. If the kid is happy and excited about what they're doing and engaged, they're going to be more successful. Staff attendance has increased, improving the quality of the instructional time. Guys, our teachers are parents, most of them. They have little kids that get sick. They have illnesses that come up. They get called for jury duty. They have to use a personal day for medical appointments, dental appointments. By creating that calendar that has some flexibility to where those folks can do that outside of school time, your teacher is in the classroom more. We have some wonderful substitute teachers. We actually have one right here with us. But when you have a substitute within the classroom, Bob Sell can tell you, he taught for many years, it's not the same, is it, Bob? When a substitute comes in, it's just not the same. So if we can keep that level of instruction as high as we can at all times, better things are going to happen, better student learning. Student discipline numbers decrease in districts that go to a 4-day calendar. So if you have students that are in classroom more, they're engaged more in their classroom, the regular teachers in front of them, and there are less distractions, nothing can happen but positive out of that for student learning outcomes. As an increased opportunity for PD for our teachers, they have more time to plan, to prep, to build better lessons, okay? And it gives flexibility for families to schedule appointments to minimize those student absences. I've got 2 spectrums of kids at my house. I have one that gets up on her own. Now she gets here about 8:19 every day, but she's here every single day. And then I have one that I'm dragging out by the foot trying to get him to go. And we all see that. We have kids that want to be here every second. We've got a student that's going to graduate this year, and I'm going to knock on wood that I don't mess it up. She'll probably have perfect attendance all the way through her 12th grade year. And then we have students that just, it's a fight to get them here. If we can create some flexibility to where it's easier for you to take care of business on the outside of that schedule, and you can get your kids here every second possible, when they walk across and get that diploma that says Forsyth R3 Schools, they're going to have some value there, even increased over what it is now. This is the biggest question that has been asked within every district that we've talked to, within every district that has gone to this, with every district that has researched this. And I'll show you a list, but Miller, Stockton, Fairgrove, Galena, Crane, multiple districts. They have their public forums, their meetings, they talk to their parents. What are we going to do with our kids on those days out? Well, and please don't take this as I'm setting up here and telling you this is not an issue for us and you to deal with. This is an issue for us to deal with. We are lucky here in Forsyth. The Boys and Girls Club has committed to be open on the days that we're not in session, which is a tremendous asset. They're right down the hill. They have some days that are closed here and there for training and things like that, so is it the answer for every single day? No. But is it a great opportunity for many of our kids? Absolutely. Right now, about 110 of our students go down there, so over 10% of our students attend there after school every day, and they can accommodate a significant number on days out. The calendar, the way that the calendar is built and has been built, we've already had 9 professional development days built into the calendar for many, many years, and sometimes as many as 11. So we've all had to, and I say we because I'm a parent too, we've all had to make those accommodations and find those solutions. In all the districts that have made this transition, this was the primary concern at these meetings and initially, and then about a month in, when they go back and review that with their parents, they find this to be not an issue. The folks have made those solutions. They've found where they're going to spend those Mondays, and then it's just like everyone else. If we lose childcare somewhere, we step up and we find the next one. Now, please don't take that as me saying this is not an issue. I understand this is an issue and a concern, and that's why we're discussing it. But from the districts we've talked to and the districts that have went through this process, it's one of those situations that has actually worked its way through, and has, a month in, it's not been a significant obstacle anymore. And this just references, again, the Monday releases, and we used to be out on Fridays for professional development prior to last year, and with the Boys and Girls Club. Okay, we talked a little bit about district savings and that 1%. And again, it's not a financial decision, but it does create a little bit of flexibility, put some dollars back in the classroom. So when you talk about money that comes in to run a school, ADA, average daily attendance, is kind of one of your key factors. So if we have a student, and we're going to use Zeb Sanders, okay? If Zeb Sanders was here every minute the entire year, his average daily attendance is basically, he's here the equal of one kid. He's here 100% of the time. If he's only here 94% of the time, the state pays us per student per year. If he's here 94% of the time, we get about 94% of those dollars to run the school district. Does that make sense? So every minute a kid is here, we're receiving some funding to support the education of that student. If he's here 80% of the time, the value we get off that student is about 80% of the funding to accommodate that. If we can create a calendar where those absences are minimized for doctors, orthodontists, dentists, personal business, we keep that ADA higher, that puts more dollars back into the district so we can better prepare for your students and our students. The other part of that is, this may be a competitive part that some families may seek this out. We receive students from Taneyville, Kirbyville, Mark Twain. Those students actually can choose which high school that they attend once they get ready for their freshman year. This has an opportunity to draw more of those kids here. Again, raising our enrollment, creating more funding, puts dollars back into your students. We talked about a 1 to 2.5% savings. I would say, if you were going to talk, hey, are we going to save some dollars? I would say 1% conservatively. That way you didn't think we were shooting high. Where does that money come from? Okay? These following areas. Fuel savings. We run our buses one less day each week, most of the year. So we're running 150 days instead of 169. So we're buying less fuel, less wear and tear, less depreciation, less maintenance on our buses. Energy savings. Heating, cooling, electricity. When you come in here, is every light going to be turned off on those days when those teachers aren't all here? No, but the AC doesn't have to be as low, the heat doesn't have to be as high. We create a little bit of energy savings through that process. This is a big one, substitute teacher reduction. If we have a fewer days on the calendar and we have that flexibility built where folks don't have to be gone to accommodate, then the amount that we pay for substitute goes down. So that's kind of the encompassing things of where will we save money. And we actually spend quite a bit of money on substitute teachers each year. Food cost a little bit. It'd be one more day of meals that we wouldn't serve. That would offset a little bit with the reimbursement that we do get for serving those meals, but we would spend a little bit less on food. What changes will we have in after-school activities? Okay. Monday is going to have events, ball games, practices, rehearsals, all those things still in place. If there's a volleyball game in Stockton on a Monday night, that's still going to go on. What we would do is make one commitment. If we're giving that Monday for folks to be flexible and make those appointments, we would be very consistent with our schedules of those activities so that you don't schedule a doctor's appointment for your son or your daughter 6 weeks out or 8 a.m. and practice is always at 3. We're not going to come to you the week before and say, hey, we decided to practice at 8 today and now your doctor's appointment's messed up. We will build that very consistent so that you can plan accordingly. We want to partner with you as much as we're asking you to partner with us so that we can maximize those days. We have been asked this question many times. We have students, sadly, that when they leave campus, they don't go to a great home. And I get choked up just a little bit sometimes, but we've got kids at home right now with no heat tonight. And we've got kids at home right now with no running water. We just do. We have a program here where we send backpacks of food home with students over the weekend. And we partner with Gift of Hope to do that. What we would do is we would pack that backpack an extra day on those 3-day weekends to provide food for those kids. And this is one of the questions we've been asked a lot. You know, what about those kids? That was one of the I would say that was one of the primary questions our teachers asked when we rolled this information out to them. What about those kids? So we understand that there are some kids that are have some rough situations at home. We're trying to offset that and give them a better opportunity to get out of that, to break that cycle by improving the education they get here. Our job is when they walk across that stage in May, we wrap all of our job into equipping students for their next stage in life. And we say that because each of us have a different goal, we all have a different potential, we all have a different interest. We're not all going to college, we're not all going into the workforce, we're not all going into the military. Each of us have that next stage we're trying to get to. If we make that diploma more and more valuable, more and more competitive, more and more sought after, when they walk across that stage, we're doing our job. So we try to prepare them. If they're in that cycle, we want to help them break that cycle. And education is the tool we have to do that. Snow makeup days, we've already talked about that. Be built in on Mondays. Very easy to plan for. Graduation date would not change. And the last day of school would not change because we have an excessive amount of snow days in there to make that up. And I know that may not seem like a big deal, but about the second week of January, our phones start blowing up, especially in the high school. When's graduation? We have family flying in. We need to book tickets. And it's an issue for us to deal with, and it's something that would resolve with this change. Last little bit of summary here. What are the benefits of transitioning to a 4-day week? It's getting the best teachers that we can in front of your kids. Getting the best food service workers that we can to work with your kids. Getting the best bus drivers that we can to work with your kids. The best people, the best trained people that we can have equates the best learning opportunity for your students and my students. Okay? And that's our goal. Increase student and staff attendance, therefore improving instructional efforts. Again, I heard me say it a lot, that flexibility, that approach to where you've got that time to get your business, your personal business taken care of, and then when it's school time, we're dug in, we're focused, we're engaged, and good things are going on. Flexibility again to eliminate those student absences, all again about FaceTime with teachers. Student focus and student engagement equates to quality learning. We don't want kids checking out mentally just because it's Friday. We want them digging in the whole time they're here and tuned in with the teacher. That's important, okay? And we think that this will help with that. This is, and I know some of these names are hard to read, this is a map of the 61 districts within the state of Missouri that have made this transition. The first district that made this change was, I believe, in 2009, 2010, right after the 2008 economy crisis. And there was a lot of talk then with districts about how are we going to continue to function and save money. This is not that conversation for us. This is about improving the quality of people we can put in front of your kids. But this is a map of the districts that have made this change. Can you see that okay? Okay, this is a history and a list of the districts in the state of Missouri so that you know that this is not something that we've, I want you to understand the number of districts that are doing this, and I also want you to understand the timing. So again, back in 1011, Lathrop became the first district. And if you look at this column right here, you can see the year that they went, how long they've been in it. 1617, 1718 got some more traction. But once you get to 1920, I really want you to look and see all the districts that have made this change. Somewhere, I believe around 17 districts made that change for 1920. For us to encompass the value of this potential change, for us to become competitive and grab a hold of this tool to be more competitive, to hire employees, timing is a key element in that. Guys, if Branson School District comes out and says next year that they're going to a 4-day school week and we make that transition, is that going to help in our hiring power of quality educators? No, it's not, because financially we can't compete with that. we're thinking outside the box to try and do the best that we can to draw the best teachers and employees that we can for your district for our kids. Okay, at this time, Dr. Boyer is going to turn the microphone on. Anyone that wants to come and ask a question, I'll do my very best to answer each question that you have. If you're not comfortable asking the question here, you can catch one of our administrators or board members, or you can catch myself. I'm not going anywhere. We have videoed this event. We're going to post it on our website, post it on our YouTube channel, so that if you want to go back and look at something else, or if you want to share this with friends or family, so that they can see that, you can do so. One of our administrators is going to scribe all the questions. And even if there's a question that I say to you, I don't know the answer to that, we're going to post all these questions and answers on our website by tomorrow afternoon, so that, again, you can go back and review that, share the link, spread this out with the community. Go ahead.
Hi, I think you guys have done a fantastic job at kind of laying out your reasoning and what the potential roadblocks could be. My question for you is, what do you see being the biggest roadblock to come into the district that you don't have a solution for yet?
The biggest roadblock, it's those kids that are staying at home one day a week with no heat and no water. And I wish that I had a fix for that, but I don't. And when our teachers are in here and they ask that question, you see tears in their eyes. I don't have an answer for that. I know those kids are there all summer, and I know they're there on Christmas break, but that would be the biggest obstacle. And I would say, to reference that, Ben, about 2 years ago, in board meeting, when we first talked about this, it was coming around, I said to our Board of Education directly, this is not something that this is right for Forsyth. But when we can no longer hire and put people in front of our kids that they deserve, that's when it becomes an issue for us that we really have to dig into. That's a great question.
She said you laid this out pretty good. The thing that I have a question about is why we haven't discussed how it's going to impact us as parents, and not only with daycare, but as you say, you're benefiting from 1 day less of food, 1 day less of electric. It's costing us parents that. And that's not a big deal, but it's also, the kids, I don't believe are, especially in my situation with my kids, I don't think they can handle another 40 minutes of school a day. I really don't believe that they're really equipped for that right now. When they get off right now, first off, they're hungrier than heck because our lunch is at 10:30, and then they get out at 3 and they have no snack, and then now you're pushing another 30, 40 minutes in the day where they're not going to be eating another snack. And then, I don't see the real big benefit for that in that process that we're asking about. I mean, I understand you say Boys and Girls Club's going to be open, but are they going to be able to hold 500 kids? And are they going to be able to hold 500 kids like my kid? It's not something that I think would be very feasible for our community.
What grade are your students in?
Actually, I have a first and a second.
So your first and second graders both get a snack in the afternoon currently. We have a fresh fruit and vegetable program that we provide them food every day. If we make this change, we actually qualify for an extended school day food service program where we can provide that later in the day. What time, Dr. Boyer, what time does our fresh fruit and veggie snack go out currently?
It varies, but anywhere from...
They take it with them when they leave the cafeteria from lunch, and then they have that opportunity in the afternoon. So I'm glad that they are currently getting that. I know this is a little bit of hardship on parents, and I'm one of those. I've got kids that are coming too. I know my daughter, she's 16, she's either going to work or she'll be involved in activity. My son's 12. I'm going to kind of have to figure out that from our family, what that's going to happen. But I think I'm willing, and I'm talking as a dad, I'm Jeff as a dad, I'm willing if I can get the best 7th grade math or English teacher in the seat in front of him, I'm willing to figure that out for my family. And I know if this was easy and super simple, we wouldn't have this meeting, none of you all be here. And that may be something I may just have to say, I don't know if I have the best answer for you, but I can tell you we've considered all that, and we're looking for opportunities to make sure during that time that they are fed, they do have that snack, which we're doing now. And if I didn't think our kids could handle that 40 days, I wouldn't stand up here and tell you, or the 40 minutes, I wouldn't stand up here and tell you that. I thought they could. I think they can. I think research says that they can. Our day structure will change somewhat, but it's going to be key instructional time so that we're pouring into those kids like we are now.
Okay. And then I don't see a benefit if we're going, you said 164 now?
169.
169, and we're going down to 150, but we're raising the hours. We're going to be only 12 hours shorter in a year difference as far as pay. So I don't see how that's going to benefit hiring new people and attract new people, because I know myself, if I was looking at a $4,000 difference for a 5-day work week, I have to put that in anyhow, one way or another, I mean, whether it's 38 hours or 42 hours, it still has to be put in to, make the bills and live and have family. And most of our families here in Forsyth, unfortunately I'm not one, but most of our families, as you say, are deprived, and they work and struggle 5 days a week, and adding this extra expense to them, I think it's going to be a lot more harder struggle.
Well, and like I said, if it was easy, we would have this. The way it's a benefit is if we can financially reward at the same level that we are now, and we can offer those people a shortened calendar, that's what's going to draw those folks in here as far as employees. Now again, there's an offset for the parents. You all are going to have, your kids are going to be there with you a little bit more time, I get that. But when you look at bringing a new teacher in and setting them down, sitting across the table and say, we can bring you on campus and have 150 days of instructional time, and then PD time with that, compared to 180 days at the neighboring district, and we can pay pretty close, that's going to get those folks here. And I think the research in the other districts has shown that. And once we get them here, the big key is they don't leave. Where's Rick Ball at? Rick, what year is this for you? 21. I want all my teachers saying, how long have you been at Forsyth? 21, 23, 25. Not 2, and then I went to Branson. 2, I went to Virginia.
And do you think that it's really teaching our kids? I mean, putting them in school for 4 days, the reason school was 5 days was to teach us life. Work week's a 5-day work week, and I mean, is that there's no research saying that the 4-day doesn't affect them in that part later in life either.
40-hour work week came up along with the Industrial Revolution when we started mass producing things. A lot of parents work from home now. The workforce is changing. We're preparing kids for jobs that don't even exist at this time. I don't want to prepare a kid for strictly a 40-hour job. I want to prepare a kid that's creative and has critical thinking skills and has abilities that he can go beyond that and earn that job that we don't even know exists at this time. Open those doors for him that he doesn't even know are there. We've had a long history of providing career opportunities all the way down to we're now taking 6th and 7th graders to college fairs and career fairs so that when they're 13 instead of 18, they know about these jobs that are out there. I don't want my kids in our district to only see the opportunities in a small window. And if we teach them to be critical thinkers, think on their feet, problem solvers, I don't think we have to teach them the 5-day structure to do that. I think we have to teach them to be critical thinkers, be smart on their feet, have a good sound foundation, and then they are able to then go out in the workforce and create and get beyond that scale.
And one last question, is the teachers that are leaving the community, are they leaving to go out of state, or are they leaving to go to Branson District?
We have a mixture. We have families that husband gets transferred, takes another job. We have teachers that get married and move. We have teachers that retire. We lose teachers in districts that pay more. We sure do. So they leave for a mixture of reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have seconds, so
Go right
Catch
ahead.
your breath. First of all, I agree with him. You guys have done a great job presenting this. I do have to say though, when we're talking about can the kids keep their attention span that way? I grew up in Springfield. Our day was 8 o'clock to 3:15. That's only 10 minutes difference. I don't remember a problem with that. I don't remember being hardly distracted at the end of the day or anything like that. I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And bear with me because I have tried to do my research. First thing, Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Yes, they'll be open. Have they committed to being open every Monday that you guys are not in session?
That is the conversation that we've had at this point. Now, please understand,
Sure.
I don't run that. But
Sure, sure.
We actually, if anybody see the KY3 story today, they actually interviewed Boys and Girls Club directors, leadership today. They're committed to try to be open
Okay.
when we're out. Now, they do training sessions. Kendra, where you at? They do training the first week of school. So our first 3 days of school, the club's usually closed, and that creates chaos for us. And we're always in their ear, hey,
Right.
this is not great. So I don't want to say 100% yes, but that's their commitment to us as of now, that they're going to be open to serve those kids when we're not in session.
On those Mondays, because that part, that does pose an issue.
Absolutely.
For parents. Your hourly staff, they count on that 40 hours a week for their paycheck. Is there a way that that will be balanced out for them? Because they would not be here the full 40 hours.
Most of
Your
our
coach, things like that.
non-certified, well, I'll say this a different way. We have various hour sets that our non-certified folks work. They will not be negatively financially impacted by this change. It actually will allow us, for those folks, and those are some of the folks that we have the hardest time trying to compensate to get in the door. It's actually going to allow us to bump their salaries up somewhat to keep them drawn here. So, and that will help tremendously. That's something the board has had a specific focus on for the past few years, giving them a higher increase percentage than the teaching staff just to do that.
Perfect. The research part that I did, my family outside of myself, they all live in Fairgrove. They
Okay.
all go to Fairgrove. When they started talking about this, I'll be honest with you, my nieces and nephews were like, oh, I don't know what they're doing. This is not going to work. They love it. And I'm telling you guys, I mean, they are from high school to elementary. They love it. The fact that, like you were mentioning, appointments, things like that. Excuse me. I actually, out of pure curiosity, coming to this meeting tonight, called the school district today. And as luck would have it, I asked a simple question. They said, well, let's have you talk to our superintendent. Okay. I mean, I picked your secretary to give me the answer. For the first quarter, their attendance has increased to 97% from the 95 window there. First quarter, I mean, I'm shocked that, I don't know about any other parents, but I'm shocked that we're already as far as we are into the school year. That's huge. That is absolutely, that is huge. I am completely for it. I completely understand that I am not necessarily in the majority of parents. But I have kids from high school to, I have a 2-year-old that hasn't even started yet. I commend you guys. I think it has been great, a great discussion. I encourage the other parents to try to be a little open-minded about it. The problems that, the biggest roadblock you talked about, that's unfortunately not a problem for the school district to solve. That is a problem for our community to solve, for us all to step into. We shouldn't have students in those positions, but we do. And the school is not our babysitter. The school is not the only place that a child should have to count on their food. That it is not that child's fault. I commend you for trying to help with that, but that's not your guys' to fix. That's going to take the entire community, not just the school.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm a fan of the 4-day school week,
Okay.
so that's good news. My concern though is looking at the hours that you guys are presenting, it drops drastically from the 1069 to the 1050. So what's gonna happen for myself, that I work in retail, and so my work week is typically a Thursday through a Tuesday, so I'm off Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
So my son's school doctor's appointments and stuff will typically get planned on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Is that going to affect his school hours with only having a 6-hour leeway from the 10:44 that's required?
So what we're doing within the academic day, so we're going to use high school, for example. We have club day. We used to have club day every month. And if you have any high school students, club day is kind of like mass chaos, but it allows our students to go and take part of those extracurriculars. So we're reducing the things of like club day and other things like that that take place during the day currently as we make this change to offset that. Because we know that we can't accommodate every doctor's appointment, every dentist appointment, and we know not every student's going to be here 100% of the time. But on our end, a teacher commitment that we ask for is they would try to make sure that they maximize those Mondays for their appointments. And the other thing that our admin and our teachers have adhered to is they're going to do everything they can to protect that instructional minute when those kids are there. So we understand we're not going to catch every doctor's appointment, every dentist appointment, but we're working to offset anything with that change. And when you look at 2.5 days per year, that's a pretty minimal change there from that 1,067 to 1,050.
Right, I just want to make sure that's not going to affect him, I guess, with like the hours. So that's good that you're saying that he'll be okay for the most part, that he'll get his instructional time, but he won't be like required to attend summer school or anything like that.
So if you're required to attend summer school based on absences, you're well beyond just the Wednesday doctor's appointments. That is something that is an ongoing issue that you have to get into pretty significant deficiencies in your attendance before that comes into play. And going to a doctor's appointment a few times a year is not going to initiate.
Okay, perfect.
I know you touched base a little bit earlier on the Boys and Girls Club, but I've had some questions. During your research, did you, what kind of percentage did they see an increase in their Boys and Girls Club?
We're actually one of the only school districts that has a Boys and Girls Club right here. So Fairgrove, they implemented an on-site childcare, and they thought, well, maybe we'll have 100 kids that we need to serve. They have 10 students, Dr. Stewart? They have 10 students, and Fairgrove is very similar to us in size, a little over 1,100 kids. So they got about 10 kids in their district that couldn't find some kind of childcare and took place there on-site at Fairgrove, which is not something that we've examined. Just because we have that club. But the other districts that we have talked to don't have that similar scenario. They have churches, some of those communities have churches that have opened up during the week. Most of them, almost all of them have had one community organization or civic organization that has kind of stepped in to fill a need. Ours is different, as in ours is already open and functioning. It would just be an open all day instead of after school on Mondays. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess my next question would be for representatives of the Boys and Girls Club. Are they prepared and equipped for a substantial increase in kids?
They are.
That's what happened.
Yes, they are. They've looked at, they can actually, their first concern was how do we fund all of our staff? How's it going to impact their budget? Because they set a yearly budget. They're heavily funded with DESE grants, which is the state education department. So
Grants that run out.
What's that?
Grants that run out.
Yes, but it's a 5-year cycle. It renews every 5 years. They're year 3 of a 5-year cycle currently. So what they are going to do is they will scale back some of their services at different times to accommodate the funding to equip that full day on Monday. And they won't shut the doors any sooner, but they'll align their staffing to where it better fits those other times to accommodate some more hours for those Mondays.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thank you for this. The format's been good to kind of clear out what all is going to happen with that. My question is logistics. Right now, we're in the Taneyville area. My daughter's in high school here. They leave here, take a bus, connect at Taneyville to connect to other buses to take them home.
Sure.
I know there's an offset time to meet those grade school and middle school kids getting out of school there. How is that going to be factored into account for these grade schools trying to get kids back and forth from the high schools?
Okay, we got two options. I can be really mean and point out the Tatyville superintendent, who's actually with us tonight, or I can tell you how it's actually going to happen. We work closely with those districts. I had a conversation with Mark Twain, superintendent, today. Dr. Roberts and I have been talking. We will align those times. Basically, we're going to make changes to fit that need. Now, that's one of the things I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like now, but we partner well enough with these area districts that that'll be a need that will arise. We'll make a solution.
Thank you.
I chose the nice way, didn't I?
A couple questions ago, you pointed out both days. I just wanted to thank you for that's an example of something at times, from what I've heard, it seems like it's less effective time spent. So thank you for that. I'd love to hear a little bit. You mentioned 2 or 3 years ago, you said this is not the solution for foresight. And in the same time frame, you also mentioned that it's time critical. Say if Branson did this, then it doesn't benefit us students. If we do this and next year Branson does this, then do we only really achieve a year worth of better attraction? And are there other ideas that we can consider that could attract teachers?
So the timing issue to me is establishment. Because once you establish that, and the university students know that, these kids graduating this year, guess what? You're just going to be way up on their list. And we are not targeting only first-year teachers, but the teachers are going to be superstars in year 21. A lot of times they're going to be superstars in year 1, so we want to grab them now. Once that's established, that steam continues to grow. I don't think, even if Branson were to go next year, I don't think we only get 1 year out of that. But the timing to me is you go now, because if you look at the data, it's happening a lot of places. So Branson is an example that I use because of the dollar base that they have, but they're very traditional. I see it taking them longer to make this decision. I don't see it as a 1 year win only. I see it as ongoing. I see it as we establish, and I see that steam continue to grow, and I see that we start growing more and more and more. So I don't think it's a 1 year time. A big advantage.
I was just wondering, do you have statistics as to the percent of increase of teachers that are wanting to apply for a 4-day school week as compared to what they are now?
I do. I don't have them built in my presentation. I can share Galena and Cranes would be the 2 closest districts.
Because I know Bradleyville, so I was wondering, did they have an increase in applicants?
Bradleyville, I haven't looked at their data closely. I've tried to look at those who are a little bit bigger, closer to our size. Galena, kind of the flip of what that slide I shared, they had about 2 applicants for one of their high school positions, and they had 21 on their last opening, and they only had 2 openings district-wide after their first and second year of implementation. So that, in just those close area districts, our data is there right away. And the other key that's happening, and I'll use them again, they pickpocketed, is the best word I could say, one of the high-end science teachers out of the Republic, because they had actually a 25-year veteran from the Republic that decided, you know what, that calendar is more attractive to me. Generally, they're not going to leave Republic and go to a Billings or a Galena or a Crane. Financially, it's just not worth it. But that calendar drew them over. And they're starting to see that. They've increased the number of dual credit courses they can offer in their high school, and this calendar change is a big part of that.
And also, I have elementary schoolers, so they attend extracurricular activities in the Branson area through the YMCA and the Rec Place. So those coincide with the time of the Branson School District. So I have to pick the kids up, I have to get them a snack, I have to get them dressed, I have to take them over there. So on the days, like for instance, it's going to be Mondays and Fridays, so I'm going to have to pick them up 15, 20 minutes early from school. Are they going to be docked for that because they attend extracurricular activities and another time?
They will be counted absent, just as if you pick them up for a doctor's appointment or something like that. You know, from kindergarten to 6th grade, my daughter did dance at Premier Dance Academy in Hollister, and from kindergarten to 4th, My son did taekwondo in the same parking lot. I wrote a dissertation in that parking lot, actually. So I know what you're talking about, throwing them in the car and trucking them over there. I get that. But, you know, school support,
All right, I
I wouldn't
understand that.
be standing up here saying, but if they're gone, you know, they would be absent if they're not here.
Because right now it works out perfectly.
Right.
And then I'm not gonna take them out of what they're doing. But then again, they're gonna be docked because we decided to change the hours of our school.
Not a perfect solution for every individual student, and we're aware of that. We're trying to look at the best for the whole group, and I understand it's going to cost some wrinkles for folks. So, you know, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So obviously, presenting this has to be your primary solution to be the betterment for what we can for our students. One thing I would like to know is if this, for whatever reason, doesn't come to fruition or is not successful at accomplishing your goals, what is your secondary option that's going to have to be the fallback? What would be the only other, or the next avenue that you feel would go?
The next avenue, we would have to sit down with the Board of Education and redefine how we want to meet that board goal of bringing those folks in. At this point, we've identified this as what we consider to be the best opportunity we have for our kids, and we want to see it through until we know that it's the best thing that our community thinks, or if they don't, we have to back up, see what does that look like. If it's not that, I mean, it almost has to go back to financial, and the problem with that is financial is an ongoing growing expense. If we give an increase in starting salary, that doesn't just go 1 year. It's not like we have additional dollars this year, we roll that out to the staff. That continues to grow. So if you look at that projection 10 years down the road, and we have all these dollars going out and our student population begins to decrease, now we have dollars going out, no dollars coming in, and we start draining the bucket. That's the fear with relying only on financial, and that's why we're focusing here. Now, I don't know what our second best option is right now. To me, in the research that I've done and the information I've collected and the work that we've done with the Board of Education, with administration, with our teachers, we feel like this is the number one thing to examine. If this is not it, and my job as a superintendent is to go back, dig in, find what that is, bring that to my Board of Education, and we go from there.
And then my second question is basically logistically, one of your big selling points, and I actually really like it, is the Mondays off being an ability to get appointments done without having to take your kids out of school. I guess, I know you can't reach out to everybody, but is there any proactive reach out to the key ones like your doctors and dentists in the area to say, hey, for a large quantity of students from this area, you are going to see an influx of requests for appointments on Monday, even as just a heads up? Is that something you guys have considered?
That's not something we've considered, but that is a fantastic idea. And we've kind of tried to look within this community of Forsyth how it's going to impact here, but that's a great idea and not something we've thought of.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the extensive research that you've done. You mentioned early in your presentation about the Cedar Creek kids.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have an idea what kind of bus time they're going to be? I mean, as a grandparent of a first grader, I watch him get off the bus. He's starving. He's exhausted already. And now I'm thinking, what kind of hours are you talking about? Do you know?
We're working on that now. Do I have a solid answer is exactly what it's going to look like? No. That was kind of the last conversation with Mark Twain today is we go out and we meet Mark Twain kind of midway. So what we'll have to do with those long routes is we'll have to look at, do we stage those differently so we can connect with Taneyville and connect with Mark Twain somewhere else to keep that timeline in line with their schedules? And do we alter, we have multiple routes in Cedar Creek, do we split those out differently so that maybe we can maintain those fairly as close as possible? They're going to have to change some. The good thing is our buses are all here by 8 o'clock anyways, and we're doing breakfast in the classroom in the elementary. So really you're looking at just a minimal difference on that morning time. You know, the afternoon time is going to be a long ride home, just like, you know, I don't have it all ironed out yet, but we're working on it.
The other question I have is there a way to lessen the sugar in the meals that they get if they're having that long day so they don't just get this real crash in the middle? because I ask him what he has for breakfast and everything, and there's an awful lot of sugar.
I know it seems like we're loaded up with sugar, but our syrup is sugar-free. Our meals are, some of our meals are whole grain. So, like the cinnamon toast, French toast sticks we had today, they're whole grain. They have sugar-free syrup, so we try not to roll it out. We try to balance. We want to do two things. One, we want every kid to eat if possible, so they're not hungry, and we got to draw them in a little bit, you know, and try to get them there. But Dr. Boyer works directly with our food service director, and that's something we continue to look at, and we will do so. Sure. Hello.
My two questions for you are, first off, I've got a 7th grader and a freshman. He's very new to high school and the way athletics works. This year is his first year of football. Most nights he would get out of the locker room to 5:45. Therefore, get home about 6 o'clock. Some nights, extensive homework load. I know teachers don't control that. I get homework, I get all of that. But adding in the extra time of day, traveling 2 hours to play, some graders told me that to do. Missing, I don't know how to do that, when you're adding an extra class, I don't know how you're doing the schedule. But if you are adding an extra class and they leave at 2 o'clock, then he's missing his 7 and extra time for history and possibly whatever else you add. Then they're playing, getting home, it's midnight, well, I've got homework to do in a couple hours, school's now at 8 o'clock. How does this work on the athletic side?
So one opportunity we have is, since we have a Monday event take place, we are going to try to alter the majority of our long travel games and events to Mondays. So if we're playing girls basketball in Stockton, which girls basketball is usually Mondays and Thursdays, we'll try to go to Stockton on a Monday. So when we're leaving early, we're not missing class. We're probably looking at adding additional time to each hour, so that it's not just building an 8th hour and then the kids are always missing 8th hour for travel. As the dad of a cheerleader, I get it. She's on those same buses. I've seen her come home at 10 and 9 and start digging into homework. She's learned some hard time management lessons that are beneficial down the road. That's part of the work it takes to be part of those extracurriculars. And that's also what makes those kids successful. When you look at the skills that those kids learn as they go through, that's why they're more successful than kids that are not involved in clubs. So I don't think that we're building a schedule where they're going to be missing an additional hour per day. I think that teachers will ebb and flow with this as we go. This will be a little bit of a different schedule for them too, so they'll make changes with instruction as we go through this. But I don't see it being a significant increase in hardship on those kids that are involved in activities, when a practice day you're looking at 25 minutes difference in time. Pretty good.
Well, that's one more question. I know not everybody attends a service or a church service on Wednesday. I get that, but there are some of us who do.
Right.
Pushing that off later into the evening puts a hardship on the youth group for getting kids to church. Is there any leeway on that? I know in sports they have to meet a certain number of minutes for their practices, but that does create a hardship on Wednesday nights for those that are involved in youth. Maybe just something to think about.
Sure.
But that definitely, as it is even right now, it's hard to get them there on time and not get them 45. And that's not a complaint. I know the shows play, but also hard to get into whoever friends.
No, I understand. And I feel like our coaches have a pretty good commitment on Wednesday nights to trying to get them out of there as best they can. It's not always going to be perfect. You know, those first few weeks of season are always longer, but as they go, you know, everything my kids have been involved with, they've worked really hard to get them out and get them in there. And I'm sure that's something that they'll consider.
Okay. And secondly, minimal again, but there's been a few times the kids needed to hear before schools to be helped on some tutoring, or maybe had to stay after. With the time change and teachers already involved in their long day as well, how does tutoring work?
Tutoring, our doors will open earlier, and our teachers will be here later. So tutoring will still be an option. Our teachers' schedules will change to where those doors will open earlier. So if you're coming in to get tutoring, maybe you won't come at 7:50, maybe the doors will open at 7:30, where there's time for those teachers. They'll still be accessible.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for this. Have you looked at doing, because I'm hearing a lot of the same questions as time, have you looked at doing an AB school day for high schoolers? I went to school, for those that don't know what an AB schedule is, I had 4 classes a day.
I would start at 7:45 in the morning, I left at 3:30 in the afternoon. I would be in class for about 2 hours and 45 minutes, 4 classes. Lunches are a little bit longer, but you've also got extra time for your homework. So, that's something you guys looked at.
We have not for this change, simply because that's also called block scheduling. It doesn't work well for us because we have a significant amount of shared teachers.
Okay.
Whereas a elementary PE teacher may also serve high school and middle school students. So when we have teachers that serve all 3 buildings, the block schedules does not work for us.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Is this something that the community is going to vote on, or is this something that administration will decide?
No, this is something that, the way this works is we have rolled this out with our staff, got their input, they approve at a high percentage. We've talked to our board is in support of this. The steps that are taking place now is we're sharing all this information with our community. We really hope more folks would be here tonight, but that's why we're doing all the push out on social media, the letters home, so that everybody can have as much information as possible. We're gonna follow this meeting up with a parent survey. So you'll have a survey come to you, you can either access it through our website, you can get it via an email, it'll come home, or you can come pick up, or we'll get you a paper copy, whatever you need to take part in that. And we'll look at all that survey from all of the folks that respond throughout the district. And then we'll sit down with the Board of Education and say, okay, do we have 90% approval, or do we have 90% that don't approve? And we'll make our decision based on that.
And secondly, as far as Mondays, there's still being extracurricular activities. Have you thought about this really won't affect me because my husband and I have a child that's going to be 16, but what about the parents that can't get their child to the bus at 2 o'clock that leaves for a long away game or another, whatever other extracurricular activity they might be involved in?
We actually have talked about that with our administrative team. We've talked about, is there the need to run our summer school bus routes for events and things like that? Basically what happens is it's almost like on Christmas break. Most of us still work all of Christmas break and we have basketball practice at 10. All of our kids show up. There's usually, they catch a ride with a buddy or grandma or grandpa. So I think that truly will be one of those things that just kind of takes care of itself. But if we got it into this and we figured out that halfway through, there's still options that we could look at implementing to serve that.
Have you looked at maybe not doing any extracurricular activities on Mondays, or is that?
We really haven't because, so let's say football, for example, if you're playing a varsity football on Friday, you've got to have a junior varsity game on Monday. And anybody that's involved in an activity, archery team, for example, you have to have a set amount of practices. The state says before you can participate in an event, like our middle school archery team that goes to Kirbyville, and I'm sure Taneyville goes there this Saturday, they have to have at least 12 or 14 practices. So we need to offer that for our students so that they can meet those state requirements.
I was wondering if there's been any studies done in any of these schools that have went to this as far as the idle time, especially for teenagers, being hard, like pregnancy and drug usage and crime and getting in trouble more. If there's been any studies in those counties that we could hear about or have a correlation with?
I know Stockton, when they did their investigation, that's one of their questions that they asked about. They called it juvenile delinquency, basically on the survey. What they found was all perception. Was that to be, at that point, they were just saying, is this something you perceive as a potential hardship or a potential outcome? So, haven't seen anybody within the districts that we've talked to that said, hey, our kids are in trouble all the time when the day's out. And I think the easiest way to answer that is of all the districts, the 61 districts that have gone to this in the state of Missouri, one district has went back to 5 days. And I think if they had a lot of kids in trouble and had those issues, I think that would be one of the things that would drive the district to go back. I haven't seen a lot of studies on that, but again, the gentleman in the back of the room can help me find that if that's something you'd like to see.
I apologize in advance. I did some research and have several questions, so it might take me a couple of minutes to
That's
get
okay.
through it. I personally have lived in this area for over 35 years, and I'm a mother of 3 daughters. I have a unique look on this because I have a daughter that's 25 and grown. I have a daughter that's a senior in high school, and I have a daughter who's in 3rd grade. I live in the city limits of Forsyth, and I have a unique position that I pay taxes for both the city limits of Forsyth and for the county. And I feel like that's what I chose to live here, to buy a home, actually build a home in this area, to go to a five-day school district. And now it's being changed to 4. Honestly, had I have known that prior to building my home, I would have chose to go somewhere else. I've talked to other school districts, including Branson and Hollister, and neither one of them have any near future plans of going to a 4-day because of the impact that it has on the children. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, the well-being of a child. I've had a freshman at home on snow days and things of that sort, and you have to wonder if they're not working, because Monday is not a tourist-driven day. Those are typically your Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. If they're not working, and typically if they're not driving, they're not going to be working, you're giving them idle time for teen pregnancies, for idle hands, just to do things that they would normally be in school learning additional things instead of looking for trouble. With that, I'm actually very disappointed. I don't think that your school board is 100% in favor of this. Can you elaborate on that? Is it 100% a yes across the board for the school board and school?
I can tell you that we wouldn't be in this meeting if the board hadn't decided at the last meeting that they were in favor and support of this and taking this out to the community.
I feel like the flexibility of a teacher's schedule and lessons plans, and to save money and to ease the help of recruiting teachers, this is not worth the child's well-being. I go on to look at the schools in Missouri that have done this, and of the 61, it's 61 out of over 500 schools that haven't done this because of the studies that are out there just are not come back in. The 17 that you talked about that came in 2019, there's no research from that. The majority of those schools that are up there, there's no research in there. But the research that I did find on this is that it's shown that this configuration, students who are in low income, minority, or special needs don't fare well in these accommodations. Well, at least initially, that it takes over 4 years at the least to get these students back on track academically. This is a big con for me, as sacrificing the future of our most vulnerable students is not worth the trivial benefits of a 4-year school week. ACT scores have went down as a result of going to a 4-day school week for high schools. My youngest daughter, who's here with me tonight, my other daughter is at a game tonight, obviously on a Monday, and when she couldn't drive, if I have to leave work to take her to practice, that's no benefit of mine. I didn't look at this as a problem to recruit teachers. I feel like there should be a bigger think tank on how to recruit teachers into our school. My younger daughter, she's very intelligent, but she learns at a slower pace than other children, just like most children do. So for her to go to a 4-day week versus a 5-day week, it will be a challenge for her. So how will you be able to help those children that aren't on your high spectrum of a school that are doing tutoring and things of that sort? Because now she brought to me that now on the days that she does tutoring, she will get home after dark.
So we address a couple of things there. When you look at the instruction for kids, and I agree with you, the most important factor, 100%. When you look at 4 days a week, if your daughter learns at a slower pace, it's actually a benefit for her because she has more time each day she's here. We have 1,050 hours compared to 1,067 with the instructional minute cleanup that we're going to do in-house and district. You're going to be about the same amount of time for your kids each year. Student attendance is going to go up, and if you've done your research, which you have, student attendance goes up in each of these districts. Therefore, the kids are here more. So if the kids here more out of 1,050 hours than they are out of 1,067, That's pretty much balances out. Now, I understand hardship of getting kids here. I do. And I think I said earlier, this is not a perfect scenario for each and every member of our district. And not everybody's going to agree. But when we look at our jobs to put those best people in front of your kids for every minute that they're here, you talk about the data and statistics of these folks, I think that the trade out in the 17.77 hours of instructional time per year with high quality people in front of them, I think that's more valuable. And I appreciate your research that you've done. I appreciate your concerns.
I do challenge what you're saying because I feel like your staff that you have now is exceptional.
I agree.
And I feel like that my daughter actually is here 99.9% of every day. And if they could get her to where she needs to be in 5 days, there's no way you're going to be able to do it in 4 days. And I think attendance is great. And I think being able to go to doctor's appointments here and there, but every Monday for a doctor's appointment, for a dentist appointment, to do errands that you could do some other time, and leave all these children without a place on 1 full day a week, I don't think that, do you know what the capacity of the Boys and Girls Club is?
They can serve about 175 probably in a full day.
And how many students do you have in a school?
We have 1,100.
And their max is 175, so where does all that other displacement go?
The rest of those kids, right now they cap out on a day out of school about 135. So what that says to me is there's about a 40 kids swing there of parents that don't have a plan in place. Not all of 1,100 of our kids are planning to accommodate that, the use of the Boys and Girls Club. Many of those kids are, you got to factor, there's a very small sample of our high school kids are going to the club. They're all old enough to stay home by themselves, which they do, they work, they do different activities. So, what it really comes down to is you have a section of kids under the age of 6, kindergartners mostly, because pre-K is already on a 4-day schedule. Kindergartners under the age of 6 are really probably most significantly impacted in this because the club is not an option. About those 90 kindergarten kids under the age of 6, that's going to be the group of kids it's going to be hardest for them to find a solution. So I don't expect the club to have to accommodate 1,100. I feel that, I don't even know that they'll meet their capacity of what they're planning to at 175, but I am happy that they're willing to work with us.
Back to the potential juvenile crime, property crime, teen pregnancy, alcohol and drug use, possible increase with our youth. I did look, and one particular school showed an increase of 73% within the first year of implementing going from a 5-day to a 4-day school. I'd like to close with, I really am very disappointed in this, and I am 100% against it. I feel like there's a lot of parents that couldn't make it tonight that are at ball games, and myself and a few other people have started a petition to sign against this, and I'll have it at the end if anybody would like to sign it. And again, it is not that I am against the school. I feel like we have an opportunity here to learn from not getting the applicants that you're wanting. Maybe there's a reason why they're not applying here, diving in deeper there, instead of changing our whole children's outlook. I have a 9-year-old back there that has cried for 2 days trying to figure out if she's going to have a place to go on Monday, even though I keep assuring her that I would never leave her alone. My husband has his own business, we would definitely find a place for her. However, we shouldn't have to. So thank you.
I appreciate your research and your thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to get up to say that I'm also against this. I'm retired. I take care of 2 grandchildren that go to this school, and it's a good school, but I think there's too many negatives to say that we just want to make this change to look for better teachers. And my question to you though would be, at what level are you experiencing the problems with hiring teachers? Is it at all levels, or is it just the high school level, elementary, middle school?
Two things.
Where's your problem?
2 things. One, we're not looking to replace our teachers. We're looking to replace them as they leave.
Right.
Keep them from leaving.
Right.
And number 2, it's pre-K through 12. Education applicants are reducing statewide in every content area, so we're seeing it every building.
So you're saying at all levels, you're
Yes, sir.
you'd be looking at hard to find quality teachers.
Yes, sir.
Well, and I think the economy probably has a lot to do with that, and also probably the school environments of today. Lots have changed over the last 30 years. And so I agree. You have a very hard job. I really sympathize with you. But I think foresight, you're just going to have to understand, I mean, you're not going to find the teachers, okay, that you're probably looking for. Okay, like I said, you got too much competition out there, bigger schools and stuff like that. But you can still have good teachers. And the teachers, you want the teachers that care about the students, mainly, okay, in educating our children. We all want our children to have a great education and to go out and do good things in the world. But I think lessening the time that they're at school is a big negative. And I know a few years back, they were saying summer vacation was too long. They weren't retaining what they were learning at school, and then they'd have to go back the first quarter or whatever and refresh them and reteach them. Okay, so I think looks to me like we're headed in the wrong direction. Okay, instead of taking the kids out of school more, they need to be here. And like you said, there's a lot of kids. This is a better environment than what they're living in. That's all I got.
I appreciate your thoughts. I think the only thing I would say is we do have those teachers now, and we don't want just the good. If they go away, we want to bring in the best when our best leave. And we do have lots of great teachers here. But appreciate your thoughts.
Hi, I just wanted to let you thank you for having this tonight.
Thank you.
It's very important for everybody to be informed in all aspects. I too have have had 2 children graduate already from here, and I still have one in school here. Teaching them that a 5-day-a-week thing is the only way to go isn't going to teach them that either. 4-day-a-week, a lot of places are going. A lot of companies are going to 4-day work weeks, so it can teach them that aspect as well. It's not the school's job to babysit anybody's children. It's their job to teach them. So yes, it does perform a hardship, but then that's where you as a parent have to dig deep and figure out something, not the school district. And we, going up against Branson, that's hard. We have lost teachers, principals, etc. to Branson. We've had several who've left here gone straight to Branson because they pay more. Having 4-day-a-week is something that we would be able to offer them and possibly get us a better teacher. So if you have, say, 2 to pick from, maybe you might get a teacher that's good. But if you have 20 to pick from, chances are your scores are going to be higher on all your testing as well if you have a better teacher. If you have more to choose from. If you have 10 applicants and this applicant scored D's and everything, and this one scored A's, well, obviously you're going to take the one with A's. But what if you only get 2 applicants who scored D's and everything? Well, obviously you're going to take what you can get. So I think people need to look at it, that aspect too. Because it is about the kids, but also it's about the parents. They need to dig deep too. The school can't do it all by themselves, they need help. So I think everybody needs to look at it that direction as well.
Appreciate your thoughts. If no one else does you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
So I try to wait and listen for everybody because I actually live in Branson and I pay Branson taxes, but I bring my kids here because I have wonderful experiences with Mrs. Cotto, Mrs. Florida. They're great teachers. I am concerned because my son is in elementary school and he has a learning disability and he strives so hard he's failing in math, which he used
So a couple things is, one, we currently pour into our teachers with professional development all the time. And I think it's really key to understand, we're not trying to roll all our teachers out of here. When they leave, for whatever reason, because the Volva family's been here for 20 plus years, Rick could become a pastor at another church next year and he could be gone, and now we've got to find a new English 4 teacher. We want the best applicant for that job when he comes back in. We currently pour into those teachers now, just as you're saying, and that will continue no matter what the calendar looks like. The other piece of that is the minutes that your student are served will be adjusted because of instructional time. So they'll actually probably be served more minutes per day over that time. So it's not like we're going to lessen the services for students. Everybody's IP will be amended based on those minutes. So it should be served more minutes each day.
Okay, and then with the savings that you get, how are you going to implement that back into the schools? Is that going to be teaching or getting the teachers new utensils or learning or knowledge, or is it going to be, I'm sorry, the food here, you mentioned before, yes, there's snacks provided, but the key is starving. I understand that the state has guidelines, but I don't think that we would feed our kids that on a normal basis. And I know that you can't do that much with it because it's according to the state and we get. How, as we and parents and teachers, how can we get it to where the food is a better quality?
So you just need to come in and talk with our administration if the food is an issue that you want to communicate and deal with, and we can put you in touch with our food service director. There are federal guidelines that we have to hold to. We try to do the best that we can, but we'll always want to try to improve.
So the savings, are they going to go into?
I don't want to say this is going into this program yet because we're looking at a projection of what that's going to be. I will never budget dollars off a projection of guessing how much is going to come in and say we're going to fund this program or that. We're going to have to see where that rolls into, but it will go back to the instructional budget in some fashion.
Okay, so you have a bullet list like we'd like this one to be the first thing that we send money to. Is that going to be student-oriented, teacher-oriented?
When I say instructional budget, that is student-oriented.
You listed all the savings, possibly food, fuel, other things. You also said the possibility of greater attendance. Is there any projections on that? I mean, are we running 93%, we possibly go to 97, and is there a dollar figure kind of tied to that?
Well, an easy way to figure that is, so 100% attendance students, about $6,308, $6,308. So, equate, if we can jump a couple percentage as a district, that kind of gives you a breakdown there. I don't want to tell you exactly what I think we would bring in because I don't know if we'll go from 95 to 96. I don't know if we'll go to 95 to 97.
Are we at 95%?
We're over 95% for the district because we have a goal being, and it varies each building. So our goal is to be 90 by 90. The state says they want 90% of your kids in attendance 90% of the time. And that's the way they set that guideline. And we meet that requirement each year. So we fluctuate that 93, 94, sometimes we'll get to 95.
So again, we're still talking maybe a percent or two of those.
Probably a couple percent. But when it's seat time, that equates a lot of learning.
So I don't really talk a whole lot about my kids unless I'm really close with them. I have 4 kids. I have 3 that are less than 30 months apart. My youngest is 5, my oldest is 11 and a half. I have a child with cognitive auditory processing delay. For those that don't know what that means, it means what you say, her brain doesn't compute. So if I say, go do this, her brain's saying something totally different to her. I am on board for this. Why? Because she has specialists that she sees in Springfield. And I have to pull her out. And when I pull my kids out of school, I'm taking time off work. When I'm taking time off work, it's hurting our family financially. Kind of quid pro quo kind of thing. So when I take her out, it's for a whole day. Why? Because I'm driving an hour to Springfield. Next, I have a 2-hour doctor's appointment with a specialist. Then we've got orthodontists or eye doctors or whatever. Then I have my son. I have so much autism. And He's the most awesome kid you'll ever meet until he flips. When he flips, it's like a light switch shuts off. And he hurts himself and he hurts others. I'm gonna get for this many hours. And I have a kid who has a super high IQ and who asks you questions on, Mom, what's discombobulated mean at 4 years old? And who can spell words that I have to look up because I don't know. And so I get the need for wanting our kids here at school. And I understand there is a concern on watching our kids. I have a 5-year-old. Guess what? She falls in that pool of, I can't send her to a daycare, she's too old. I can't send her to Boys and Girls Club because she's too young. And we'll be out of summer school, almost into school starting back up again before she could go to Boys and Girls Club. So I'm there, but I'm still on board for this. Why? Because I will figure out a way for someone or myself to be there for my kids on that Monday. And if that means I have to step up for my friends and say, hey, you know what? I gotta take a Monday off because I've got kids who I have to carpool. Guess what? I have 3 kids that are 30 months apart. Bringing over an extra 4 or 5, it's not a big deal to me. This weekend I had a boys' birthday party with 7 to 8-year-olds at my house for a sleepover. Saturday, I had 10 girls at my house for a tea party. Kids don't scare me. I will step up and help. And I'm not the only parent that feels this way when it comes to our kids. I know there's plenty of parents here that moms work in school as hourly employees who watch the kids after school, and if you will talk to them, I'm sure they'll help. Because that's what we do as a community. But just saying I'm against it because I have a kid with special needs, guess what? There's that too, but there's needs that go beyond, that require specialists in Springfield, not in Branson. And there's doctors that won't touch my kids in Branson because they're not well versed enough. I have specialists that come out of St. Louis and Kansas City to meet with my kids because their diagnoses are the only ones that they've seen so far. So I get it. But at the same time, how are we improving their day lives at school and their instructional time if they're having to miss for these other things? I have kids who spend 8-hour days the last 3 weeks getting tested for allergies because he has 17.5 pages of food allergens and they're finally slowly falling off. But that doesn't help him when I have to pull him out of school for 6 to 8 hours for him to be tested at an allergist. So having this one day off opens that up as an option to, hey, this is what we're doing, and hey, this is gonna help. And if you rally around their friends' kids who are in extracurricular activities, who go back and forth to whatever things your other kids are doing, you'll find those that are gonna help.
Appreciate it.
I know that you said you were going to do a survey amongst the parents. I don't know if the grandparents will include that, but I would say not. I'm opinionated. So how much of the approval of the parents will you need? Or let's put it this way. If the parents do not approve of it, will the school board still make the decision regardless of what the families think?
So we don't have, as a Board of Education and Administration, we have not set a hard percentage line of what that approval looks like. In looking at the data, districts with 68% approval at this stage have moved forward. Districts have had 85% approval and move forward. So what we have to do is take all that survey feedback and sit down as a board and superintendents and the administration team and look at it and say, let's get a feel for the pulse of our community. And it may be something that we say, okay, at this point, we think that if we say 90% comes in, we might say 90% of people are in favor. Okay, we're going to move forward. We may say 90% are not in favor. At this point, it's not the right move for us. So we don't have a hard percentage point. We're going to look at the pulse of that survey and see what our community thinks and see how that feel, and then we'll cycle through that and make our next moves, the next discussions.
Okay. So like if we do this for a year or two, it's not feasible, is it hard to go back to the 5 days?
It's, there's, like I said, there's only one district that's done it, but with the change in our schedule, it's as easy as adjusting the calendar for the upcoming year. My guess is if we did move forward and went with it, that majority, and this is not my personal feeling, this is from reading the statistics and the research from other districts, that if this is a move that we would make, then the community would adhere to it and want to stick with it. I appreciate everyone's time, everyone's questions, everyone's thoughts. We're recording this, so we'll put this on the school website, so if you have someone you want to share this and make sure that they see it, please do so. You can always call me directly at the school, just call the school district, ask for Dr. Mingus in central office. I'll be happy to speak with any of you, meet with any of you if possible. We understand this is a big decision. We will have a survey out later this week for parents and community members to fill out, and we'll communicate with you up front so that you know how that's going to be facilitated. So you'll know to look for either a letter home or an email or a link on the website. But again, administration is going to hang around. If you have a question for the administration or for any of the board members, please feel free to stick around and talk to us. We're in no rush. We're here for you. So again, thank you for your attendance, your thoughts, respect, and appreciate everybody's input. Thank you.